Okay, so we are the final leg for traffic generation activities of Blitzscaling. Okay, so we went through the sources, we understood the system, right? Now we talk about pyramid. The pyramid is nothing but a culmination of all this and how they work in synergy. Okay, and if you have been paying attention to the 10 commandments, all those 10 commandments come as an outcome from this pyramid. Okay, so what happens that and what does a pyramid represent? Okay, if you realize, typically the larger role or the heavy lifting is done by the system that you create. Okay, but please understand what is happening. That 5% is the only element is what system is doing. This whole gig is about the communication that you put through. All right, what does that mean? Your in the mindset that you create for yourself and the goal settings that you do will create the right kind of communication which is internally generated, right? You remember that whole synergy of internal and external voice and the copy coming into play, right? Now, if you see what you're delivering is the prelude to your larger asset, okay, for traffic generation. This is exactly what you're doing. So this system, right, does 5% of the job. Your 80%, that is the heavy lifting that you're doing, is your communication that you're generating, right? Now, the internal communication that you generate, that means your thinking process, how you will develop, what you will do, how you analyze, how do you convert it, and so on and so forth, that is 80% of your job. Okay, hence you put automation at play for doing the execution work, which is the heavy lifting per se. Okay, but the heavier lifting is your mindset, which is now generating that communication as an external source, right? Though I told you there are AI systems out there which can generate it for you and this and that, but the thinking has to be put in by you. Without thinking, there is no outcome. There is no system which is going to help you to do anything. It will not automatically send out it will send out automatic communication which you fed it. But to feed in first time, you should know what kind of communication. You worked out the whole system very clearly. So that is 80% of the job. You have perceived this, just that you're using automation to conceive it through in terms of execution. All right. Now your perception for the external world is 15%. So one is your internal system, which you create 80%, right? The thinking, the pattern, the creativity, and this and the other, everything that comes across. The 50% is the 15%, right? So 80%, 15% is all about what you communicate with that thinking process, right? That 15% is what culminates into 80 plus 15, which is 95%, which causes the entire communication you create out of the system. You feed that elements of communication into the system which is getting automated, what we just discussed out there, right? The sources and this and the other. You feed that into the system which does the execution process with you being out. That's when they start doing the heavy lifting and work like a machine. Okay, like a factory. So it's typically a factory model, if you will, where you feed in with something, then it runs 24/7 of its own with the feeding that you've done. If the feeding is wrong, the product or the outcome that you anticipate will be completely wrong. Got it? So pyramid plays an important role. Now, what goes into the pyramid is your RFM system, right? The whole funneling system that we talked about. The whole PAP system, which creates that proliferation, and then the tools that are going into it, which is your, the central hub, the funnel builder, the auto respond and tracking system, right? Each of them, central hub, I told you will again, just to refresh, right? What is the central hub? Central hub was something that was redirecting based on, your website, your community, or the blogs that you create, right? So that gives you sort of analysis, the feedback. It gives you the inputs because of the lead generation or the traffic that is coming through those nodes, and then you go about reiterating it or changing it, or keeping it the same so that people come to it again and again because of the sheer fact that they like it. So that's your central hub, right? Then you have a funnel builder. We talked about the webinar system. We talked about maybe for a course you'll have a Teachable out there. You might have a ClickFunnels as a platform to be used for creating those the sales funnels and so on and so forth. So that is a funnel builder activity. Then you have an autoresponder, right? Use like GetResponse or a ConvertKit, etc., which is doing a sequence of events. So those are tools, right? track system, so all these basically the tracking system, the autoresponder, the funnel, etc. These form tools. So the pyramid remains consistent. The tools keep on changing. This is specifically for the traffic that we discussed. All right. Your tools might be different for as soon as you go into other modes, which is your lead gen and your other activities. But when you start thinking traffic, okay, or let me put in other words, when you start thinking blitzscaling, that pyramid is bigger than this. Okay, this pyramid forms one part of that activity, which is the traffic element. The larger piece, that is blitzscaling, will have a different way of looking at the pyramid, which we'll go through when we go there. But from a traffic perspective, your success mantra is 80% mindset, 15% communication, and then 5% is a system. That system consists of this RFM system, the BAP system, which is your techniques of doing things, and then your framework of doing things, and the tools that you use to make this, enable this through, right? So that is your pyramid for traffic. Right? I hope you got this right, because this is your genesis for blitzscaling, right? So traffic is where this thing starts from. So 10 commandments, all the salient features, your sources, very important to know what you're going to use, how you're going to use based on the resources that you can employ. Number 3, we did the systems. We talked about RFM, we talked about the larger BOP system, right? And then how they all tie in to create your pyramid based on the tools that you use, but with the larger success formula of having the right kind of mindset, your right kind of communication, and then going about using the systems for automating your processes to get the outcome that you're looking at, and factory model. All right. So with that, we come to the end of day 2, and I will see you in day 3 tomorrow.